Okay, so we've all seen it in the movies, right? The suspect sweating under a single light bulb, all these wires hooked up to a machine with that jumpy little needle. But what if I told you that whole iconic setup is basically more fiction than fact? It's a huge question, one that gets to the very heart of things like our justice system. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the polygraph and find out what science actually has to say about catching someone in a lie. And this isn't just Hollywood stuff. I mean, as this person points out, these tests are still a very real part of getting jobs in law enforcement or for national security clearances. Which makes you wonder, right? If the science is so iffy, why on earth are we still using them? You'd think, since they're used so often, that they must be pretty effective. But, well, the science tells a very different story. So let's get into it and break down exactly why the classic polygraph is on such shaky ground. Okay, here it is. This is the single most important thing to get. A polygraph doesn't detect lies, it detects stress. And sure, lying can be stressful, but you know what else is stressful? Being totally innocent, but terrified that no one is going to believe you. And this is where it all falls apart. The machine is just tracking your body's physical reactions, your heart rate, your breathing, how much you're sweating. It has no idea why your heart is racing. It can't tell the difference between the stress of a lie and the stress of, say, a panic attack or just being in an incredibly intense situation. So, how accurate are we talking here, really? Well, one huge analysis crunched all the numbers, and the result is kind of shocking. Just 54%. You'd literally be better off just flipping a coin. Let that sink in for a second. So, if the machine is basically a bust, what's the alternative? Well, we have to go straight to the source of the lie itself, the human brain. And this is where the science of deception detection gets really, really interesting. It all boils down to this idea called cognitive load. Think about it like this. Telling the truth is pretty easy. You're just recalling a memory. But lying? Lying is hard work. You have to invent a story, keep all the details straight, make sure it sounds believable, and act natural at the same time. It's a massive workout for your brain. And that's the key to the new approach. Instead of just passively watching for signs of stress, the goal is to actively make the liar's job even harder. You want to overload their brain, push their mental gymnastics to the limit, because that's when the cracks start to show. So, how do investigators actually do this? It's not about some fancy new machine. It's all about using a set of really clever interviewing techniques that are designed to exploit that cognitive load. And this is the playbook right here. Researchers have zeroed in on three main strategies, three ways to really crank up that mental pressure on a liar, which, by the way, also makes it easier for a truthful person's story to shine. For instance, check this out. Ask someone to tell their story backwards, in reverse chronological order. If you're telling the truth, it's a little weird, but you can do it because you're working from a real memory. But if you're lying, you've rehearsed your made up story from A to B to C. Trying to tell it from C to B to A, your brain just short circuits. The whole fabrication falls apart. And what's really smart is that it's not a one size fits all solution. If you want to confirm a true story, the best thing to do is just encourage them to say more. A truthful person has a deep well of details to draw from. But if you think you're being lied to, that's when you bring out the cognitive load techniques. So, okay, this all sounds good in theory, but does this new approach actually work better? Well, the data is in and it is pretty darn compelling. A huge analysis of 14 different studies found that this cognitive approach hits 71% accuracy. That is a massive jump from the 56% you get with standard methods. We're moving out of the realm of guesswork and into a genuinely useful tool. And when you dig into the specific numbers, it's even more impressive. The real game changer is in detecting lies. The old way had a dismal 47% success rate. You'd be wrong more often than right. But this new approach, it brings it up to a solid 67%. That's a huge difference. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Where does the science of figuring out who's lying go from here? Well, it means the future of lie detection isn't about building a better machine to read our bodies. It's about developing smarter ways to understand our minds. It's a fundamental shift from pseudoscience to actual psychology. And that leaves us with a really big question for the future, doesn't it? As technology like AI gets more and more powerful, are we on the verge of a truly foolproof lie detector? Or are we just going to end up with a high-tech, more sophisticated version of the same old pseudoscience, one that just amplifies our own human biases? The answer to that is going to shape our world in ways we're probably just beginning to imagine.